This full moon is my favorite of the entire year. Not because it's in the sign of Sagittarius, my own sun sign. I'm not biased at all. But rather, it's my favorite because it's coincident with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction. It is very special, and let's find out why. Before we look at the chart, just a quick announcement. A few months ago, I opened a new YouTube channel called Meditation Nexus, and I'm putting all my guided meditations up there. And I've custom designed a meditation for this Sagittarian full moon so that you can really reap the benefits of the energy of this event. I'll put a link above and below if you're interested. Check it out. With that being said, let's take a look at the chart. Okay, here we are. And as you can see, we have this beautiful Sagittarian full moon happening at almost 3 degrees of Sag. And always when you consider a lunar event, you want to look at the planet that rules that sign of Sagittarius, and that's Jupiter. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is the most beautiful event here, the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, which is happening right next to the sun. So it's intimately connected to this full moon event. And lastly, we have this Mars in its own sign of Aries. And when a planet's in its own sign, it's very, very strong. It's also next to Chiron in Aries and the North Node of the moon in Aries. So a lot of Aries energy, even though Mars isn't really aspecting the full moon, we cannot remove it from the picture because it is so charged in the sky. The primary question is, what the heck does it all mean? So here we are at the beginning stages of the Gemini season, starting off with a bang with the Sag full moon. And these are opposite signs, these two. And opposite signs are always opposite sides of the same coin. So how Sagittarius expresses itself in the world stylistically is quite different from how Gemini expresses itself in the world, and will a lot of times be perceived as opposite expressions or just very different from each other. But at the core of that same coin is these are both symbols of experience and learning. So this is a period of time that is about learning. And Sagittarius goes by a variety of archetypes, but the primary ones are the gypsy, the scholar, and the philosopher. Now, the more nomadic side of Sagittarius, known as the gypsy, that just means traveler, basically. It is a reference to cross-cultural experience. So you think to yourself, how can I work with the Sagittarian full moon? Go on a long trip or a short trip, just see new sights and sounds and smells, and to seek that which you have not explored before. The goal with Sagittarius, and Gemini for that matter, is to learn something by the end of the week that you didn't know at the beginning of the week. And then the gypsy archetype puts that down more, that, getting the body and the idea of living bodily engagement with this more exploratory energy of just getting out there in the world and seeing new things. Now, the scholar, it just represents the passionate mind. So much to learn in a lifetime and so little time. So it represents an enthusiasm for learning. So another powerful way you can work with this event is to study something that fascinates you, that really piques your curiosity. Again, same ingredient, that which has not been explored before. And then the philosopher archetype, which is just the intuitive function that reaches out beyond the tyranny of the familiar and embraces the unknown by wrestling with philosophical questions, such as, why are we here? What is the purpose of life? Now, what all these have in common is that idea, again, of learning and expansion. This is a fun, exuberant, optimistic moon. It's a warm moon. It's a moon that is best leveraged through action and a fiery nature, because Sagittarius is a fire sign. All fire signs are fundamentally signs of action. Meanwhile, as I mentioned before, we got that Mars in Aries. These are both symbols of action as well. So these are references to getting off our butts, and having some fun, being aware that which excites us. That's part of Mars and Sagittarius, but then also what might intimidate us or scare us a little bit. And usually where you'll find fear, excitement will be close by, vice versa. They're close cousins. So both of these, what they have in common is adventure. This is a time to seek out adventure. Now, going a layer deeper here, what about this beautiful Jupiter-Venus conjunction? Jupiter classically is known as the greater benefic in astrology. Venus is the lesser benefic. And whenever they hold hands in the sky, not only is it a beautiful sight to behold with our physical eyes, it has been seen throughout history to be a very powerful, positive, and benefic force, which is not to say we still can't get it wrong. Every front has a back. Here we are in the realm of duality and polarity. So we can talk a little bit about how we can get it wrong, but overall, this is a sweet set of energies. Hence why this is my favorite full moon of the year, hands down. These are symbols right now inviting us to enjoy life. Jupiter likes to say yes to life optimistically, to expand into that life, to have faith in oneself, to have faith in a better future. Venus is the goddess of love, the goddess of arts, the goddess of serenity. She represents that which we value. Here it is in the most sensual sign in the zodiac, Taurus. Now, by sensual, I don't mean sexual. It just means of the five senses, of this monkey body. It represents everything earthy, grounded, and practical. So it's a good time to just feel good, to do things that feel good, and to look for the good in the world. Because when the two benefics come together in the sky, the good in the world happens way more than it does normally, way more above random chance, because we have this benefic force flowing through the collective. A good Jupiter question to ask yourself is, how am I underestimating myself? How am I underestimating my capacity to have a good time, to lighten up, to explore, to learn things I haven't learned before? How am I underestimating my capabilities to live a more adventurous life? This full moon illuminates a much broader perspective, inviting us to see beyond the current limitations and to expand our horizons. And this expansive energy associated with Sag and Jupiter is further enriched by the fact Jupiter and Venus are in the sign of Taurus, which can ground out our visionary aspirations with a sense of beauty, value, and tangible pleasure. Meanwhile, you have this Mars in Aries energy, which can ignite the more passionate warrior within us and drive us towards our evolutionary path, pushing us to take bold steps and assertive actions that will really align with our soul's purpose. And as we integrate these energies, we're called to embark on a journey where our higher ideals and aspirations, this is more Sagittarian and Jupiter energy, are grounded in the Taurus, practical, loving Venusian actions and driven by that martial or warrior-like courage or pioneering efforts towards this adventure. And it's a beautiful time to blend our lofty dreams with concrete, practical steps and a fearless pursuit, ensuring that our actions are both inspired and purposeful. Here's the metaphor. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a vast forest. This is more Sagittarian energy, unexplored potential. And this forest represents this uncharted territory of your highest potential. And in your hand, you have this beautifully crafted map that not only guides you, but also reminds you of the treasures and the beauty that wait within. This is more the Jupiter-Venus greater benefic, the treasure map. And your heart, it's racing with excitement, maybe a little bit of touch of fear. There's that martial Sagittarian energy. And you feel this powerful force behind you, though. It's like a gentle nudge or an insistent push. This is Mars in Aries energy as well. And this push is the fire of your own soul, urging you to step forward and really claim your destiny. And as you step into the forest, you realize that each step you take is not about reaching a destination, okay? But it's about the journey itself. It's kind of a cliche. So you have the trees, the sounds, the smells. They all enrich your experience and make the journey worthwhile. And you start to understand that your dreams are not just about the end goals, but about the beauty and passion that you infuse into every moment in the pursuit. These set of energies, all of them, what they have in common, although they're very different, is the benefit to utterly enjoying the present moment as you experience it second by second by second in this body-centered, sensual Taurus way. So to work with these energies, it's about, on one hand, embracing exploration, opening yourself up to new experiences and perspectives, and allow this full moon energy to illuminate possibilities you hadn't considered before. That's one powerful way of working with this. Another one, since, Jupiter and Taurus, well, really Jupiter itself and Sag, are connected to this idea of visionary ideas. So we add in Taurus in the mix. It's about grounding out that vision and use the practical and sensual energy of the Jupiter conjunct Venus in this sign to create a solid foundation for your dreams and to make plans that are not only visionary, but actually achievable, and then make the practical steps towards those goals. And ideally, those goals are what? Expanding your horizons of what you've known, Sag, Gemini style. And then lastly, again, it's about acting with courage. This Mars is very strong, but it's not a guarantee that people are going to manifest it in a powerful, courageous way, because that is the higher octave expression of the warrior. Courage, bravery, willpower, asserting oneself to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's healthy warrior energy. But it's not a given because it's sandwiched between Chiron and the north node of the moon here. So the potential for more of a wounded warrior to express itself, or the warrior who's gone through a lot of pain and suffering to express itself, is a little bit easier than the higher octave expression amongst the collective, due to the fact that, okay, yes, it's next to Chiron, but really the headliner here is the North Node. The North Node in astrology is really the hardest point in our chart to reach and to master because it is basically nothing but a good idea. It's a neutral point in the sky. So whenever a planet's conjunct the North Node, it's there for us as tremendous evolutionary possibilities, but it's hard to reach and master, or at least to express itself in that love-based higher consciousness way. But if you work with it, and if you have patience, and you just follow that adventurous spirit, this Mars conjunct the North Node can propel you forward, and it will help to give you the wind in your sails, so to speak, so that you can take those bold steps towards your goals, and trusting that the passion will guide you in a true direction. In my opinion, these energies overall are quite positive and auspicious. And the encouragement here is to remember the reasons why you're glad to be alive and to really seek out those pleasures in the world. Some folks get hung up on the idea, myself included sometimes, is how can I possibly have a good time when there's so much suffering and strife in the world? All the abuse that's occurring to animals in the world, all the child trafficking, all the wars, people dying and killing each other. Yes, it's happening. It's scary. But there's also a beautiful side in life. And yes, these energies can be manifested in a negative way amongst these events that I'm talking about. I did mention Mars and Aries conjunct the North Node is more likely to be expressed in a more prideful and egoic and destructive way than in a positive one. So we will see a lot of that in the world. You combine the warrior energy with Sag, which is known as the preacher archetype, can create this sort of religious zealotry. And Jupiter's vulnerable to ego inflation. Taurus is vulnerable to stubbornness. Dark side Venus is expressed as manipulation of others, since it's a relationship-oriented planet. So of course these energies can and will be manifested in a destructive way, but just believe in the magic of the greater benefics. They are bringing good. Look for the good. Align yourself with the good. Why? Because that raises your consciousness. That raises your frequency. And you will be a much more powerful, positive force in the world if you raise your consciousness to this love-based consciousness, these more, let's say, evolved expressions of these energies as I'm describing it. And then at that point, you will function as a beacon of light or lighthouse in a world surrounded by darkness, as we're really struggling with this spiritual warfare. So just because the greater benefics are coming together in the sky doesn't mean it's going to be all rainbows and unicorn farts, you know. We are in the realm of duality after all, but the good is happening way more than what is considered normal. And to just take advantage of that, to lean into that, to allow that sort of energy to create more of a buoyancy inside of you instead of this contracted stress state of consciousness, and to do things you enjoy, and to live through the five senses. We can merge with this expansive vision, Sagittarius style. Meanwhile, we can do it in a practical, grounding Taurus way, with courageous action as we follow that excitement wherever it leads us. And the more you do that, the more these pathways is both fulfilling and transformative. And your journey through this forest that we used as the metaphor becomes a metaphor for your life's journey, which is rich, meaningful, and aligned with your deepest values and highest aspirations. These are the core evolutionary intentions, with the goal being to expand our consciousness. As I said at the beginning of the video, I custom designed a meditation for this event so you can really experience these energies directly through the superpower of your own consciousness in a meditative state. I'll put a link above and below. Enjoy, take care, and happy evolving.